This message is for Setha, who asked a question from the Chapter 3 review sheet that I passed out. Find an equation of the tangent line to the curve y is equal to sine of x at the point x equals to 3 pi. So notice it says find an equation. So an equation of a line is going to be y is equal to mx plus b, or you could use y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. So you want to find the equation of a tangent line. So here, notice in both equations, they both have an m in them. So you need to find the slope in order to find the equation of the tangent line here. So the first step I need to do, step 1, is to find the slope of the tangent line. So the slope is the same thing as the derivative, right? Slope means derivative in terms of calculus. So here is my y equals to this. So since my function is y is equal to sine of x, then the derivative, the first derivative, using the chain rule. So notice this is not product. This is not sine times sine x. So I know some of you guys see this mistakenly as sine times sine x. That doesn't make sense because sine always has to have something attached to it. So what this is actually sine of x. So it's a composite function. Sine is the outer function and sine x is the inner function. So here I have to use the chain rule. So use the chain rule. So again, this is not the product rule. We're not using the product rule because this is not a function times a function. This is a function within a function. So a function within the function. So here, my outer function is sine, and my inner function is the sine x. So using the chain rule, the first thing I do is find the derivative of the outer. The derivative of the outer then is, derivative of sine is cosine. So derivative of sine is cosine, and then I just write the inner inside of it. So here, this is the derivative of the outer with the inner inside of it, times, again, the chain rule says take the derivative of the outer, then take the derivative of the inner. What is the derivative of sine, the inner? Cosine x. So here, the derivative of the inner is cosine x. All right, so this is using chain rule. So now this is cosine of sine x times sine x. And it's saying at the point x is equal to 3 pi. So here at x is equal to 3 pi, because slope is always a number, right? Slope is always a number. Here's the function of the slope. So what is the number? So I'm going to plug 3 pi in here. So I have cosine of sine 3 pi times cosine of 3 pi. And sine of 3 pi, I sometimes forget these. Sine of 3 pi is 0. So sine of 3 pi is 0. So right now I have cosine of 0 times, and cosine of 3 pi is going to be negative 1. So cosine 3 pi is negative 1. And if you forget, you just plug it in your calculator and make sure your calculator is in terms of radians. So cosine of 0 is cosine of 0, and cosine 3 pi is negative 1. And the cosine of 0 is simply just 1. So 1 times negative 1, so the slope is negative 1. So all this is the derivative, which means the slope. The slope is negative 1. Okay, are we done with this? No, we're not. Now that we know the slope, step 2 is to plug in the slope into the equation of a line. So when you plug it in, you end up getting, and here's x1 and y1, plug in m into equation line, and then plug in your x1, y1 value as well. So again, you could use either equation to do this. I'll use this one, y minus y1 equals to mx minus x1. You could do that one, it doesn't matter. So if I use y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. This is the point slope form of a line. I have y minus blank is equal to m. M is my negative 1 times x minus blank. So what is x1, y1? What is a point on the line? Well, the point is, one point is 3 pi when x is 3 pi. So x here is 3 pi. x1 is 3 pi. So what is y? What is the y value when x is 3 pi? Well, to find that out, just plug 3 pi into the y function to find out what y is. So I'll just do it on the side here. At x is equal to 3 pi, y is equal to sine of sine 3 pi. And what is that? So when I do this, I work within the parentheses first. Sine of 3 pi is 0, right? Yeah, sine of 3 pi is 0. So I have sine, this thing becomes 0. And what is sine of 0? Just 0. So therefore, the x1, y1 value is 3 pi comma 0, right? So this is on the side. So here, y1 is going to be 3 pi. It's going to be 0, I'm sorry, because the y value is 0. And now I write this in slope-intercept form, which will become y is equal to negative x plus 3 pi. And this becomes the equation of the tangent line to the curve at this point.